April is marking Autism Awareness Month, and a new book is calling for a fresh approach to how we support children with developmental disabilities and their families. Early childhood intervention by the Ballina-based psychologist Martin O'Connor brings together the voice of parents, professionals and policymakers, offering what he describes as a more compassionate, practical and family-centred way forward. Martin, a very good morning to you. Thanks for being with us on Morning Focus.
Good morning, Alan.
Delighted
to be with you.
Glad to have you on board. Tell us a bit about your background as a psychologist and what led you to write Early Childhood Intervention.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I've worked in what are called disability services, both for children and adults, all of my working life. And I suppose in terms of where the book came from, an article in the Irish Times in, I think, October of 2024 was kind of the catalyst for something that had been floating around for me for quite some time. And in the article, which was written by the aunt of a little boy with a developmental disability, two particular paragraphs jumped off the page for me. And this was really, as I say, the catalyst for finally making a decision to write the book. In one of those paragraphs, the aunt of the little boy described his parents and their frustration caused by waiting for a diagnosis. I think they had been waiting for maybe a period of 18 months to 2 years, if not longer. And this would describe a situation that many, many parents can identify with. But then in the next paragraph, she described the little boy. And she described him as being on the kitchen floor, not crawling in the normal way. But if he saw a toy at the far end of the kitchen floor, he was able to get there in his own way. And suddenly it was like a light bulb moment. I said to myself, well, that's child development. That's child development on the kitchen floor. And the insight I had was, well, the little boy isn't waiting for a diagnosis. Development doesn't wait for a diagnosis. And the reason for writing the book was to highlight the importance of child development from day one in the life of a child. Now, the development of children with developmental disabilities can be more difficult to discern. And that's precisely why parents need support with their parenting.
And Martin, they need support with their parenting, and given that families are waiting for services, so the services themselves, I guess, aren't perfect, and I'm sure the parents feel they're not perfect yet. There is a feeling of perfectionism amongst both the parents and professionals, but also guilt. How widespread is that?
It's very widespread. I mean, it's very understandable why a parent would want their child to be accessing services. Now, the issue there for me is there's a lack of agreement, or at least a lack of stated agreement. What do we want for children with developmental disabilities? My perspective, as I have outlined it in the book, is that we all want children to be the best that they can be, to function well, to be engaged, and meaningfully participate in their family, school, and community life to the greatest extent possible. But I don't think services, by and large, are aligned to that vision. But ultimately, if you go back to what I mentioned about the two paragraphs in the Irish Times article, that's what the development of that little boy is about. And that's what the development of all these little boys and girls ought to be about, to function well, to be engaged and meaningfully participate in family, school and community life. For me, that ought to be the purpose of children's disability services. And that ought to be the focus of the support that's offered by professionals to families to enable children to function well, be engaged and meaningfully participate.
It does seem,
that way, people are all singing from the same hymn sheet.
It does seem, Martin, like the current system in Ireland is not set up to deliver the kind of family-centred support that you're advocating for. I mean, what changes would you like to see from policymakers or service providers?
Well, the main change I would like to see is, as I've just said, that we would all be singing from the same hymn sheet in terms of, like, when you state, and I've stated this and shared this with families, professionals, and indeed policymakers, is it possible to get agreement on this statement? That the whole focus of children's disability services ought to be helping children to function well, be engaged, and meaningfully participate. Like, meaningful participation is now regarded as an essential goal for the development of all children and young people. And that arose from the World Health Organization, ICF classification system, as far back as 2001. And that's now been developed further by Canadian researchers into what they call the F words for child development. And the F words for child development talk about functioning. The children want to do things. They might do things differently, but they need opportunities to try to do things. So functioning refers to what children do. How they do it is not what is important. The second F word is family. The families know their child best. The services need to trust families and parents, need to listen to them, hear them, and respect them. And family is the essential environment for development and learning for all young children. Fitness, mental fitness, emotional fitness, that's an area that's often under-emphasized in relation to the daily life of children. Fun is another F word. The importance of having fun. The importance of having friends, which is often a challenge for children and families. And thinking about the future, because development is ongoing right up into adulthood and old age. So in the book, I propose that a framework like the F words, which is very soundly based in research and practice, that a framework like that could provide a common hymn sheet for people to sing from, so to speak. And that's what I've been sharing with policymakers, sharing with families. And I've yet to meet a parent or a policymaker or indeed a professional who would say to me, that doesn't make sense. Okay. It makes complete sense.
Well, the book certainly
so I think that's the biggest challenge at the moment for people working in services, is to have an aligned way of thinking. And a shared way of thinking that both professionals and families can then work together on behalf of children.
Well, the book is certainly thought-provoking and could potentially lead to change. It's called Early Childhood Intervention. The author is the Ballina-based psychologist Martin O'Connor. Martin, thank you for joining us on Friday's Morning Focus.